1 year since we launched the ROG Ally, and we had a single goal: play all your games, anywhere you go, with incredible performance.
And not only have you shared tons of feedback with us over the past year, but you've also shared the countless ways you've been using the ROG Ally every day. The ROG Ally has been a labor of love for all of us. And it's been amazing to see what the community has done, rallying around what we've created. We can't wait to show you what's next.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to ROG Pulse, your inside look at what's happening behind the scenes at the Republic of Gamers. And today it is all about the ROG Ally. Now, we just celebrated the 1 year anniversary of the Ally's announcement, and we couldn't be prouder of what we've created. With Windows unlocking the potential for massive game libraries across multiple platforms, we have the incredible performance of the AMD Ryzen Xeon Extreme APU and new game-changing technologies like FSR and AFMF that really do change the game. Plus, you got cloud saves to pick up your gaming sessions where you left off. You add all those together, and it adds up to the Ally being the ultimate companion to your PC or console.
Yes, for real. And to reiterate what that video said, we could not have done it without you guys. The community has been amazing. We have spent the last year collecting all of your feedback, and we have learned a lot from our first year in the handheld space, right? Your passion helped us turn the Ally into what it is today and what it will be in the future. So today, we want to talk about not just what's coming, but we want to share the decision-making process behind a lot of the changes, to show some transparency behind how your feedback turned into what we're revealing today. So today's big leap starts with two things. The first, as you may know, is a brand new version of Armoury Crate SE that we're calling version 1.5. We saw how many users were installing other launchers to achieve this beautiful customizable interface, and we thought, you know what? Armoury Crate can be this, right? So our team took everything that they built over the past year and overhauled the user interface to fit that. This new look is cleaner, it's more console-like in feel and in functionality, with more customizable options than ever before. And it's not just aesthetic either. It includes more features like AFMF right in the command center and in the game profile, so you can further tweak how each game runs automatically when you start it up. You can even share your button mappings with other members of the community, and every aspect of your system will be updated from that seamless central place in Armoury Crate. So this is going to be a big update, you guys. It's dropping in July, and we'll have a more in-depth look at it in the coming weeks on this very channel. But we know that's not why you're here today. There's one other way that we made the Ally better with your feedback. We built some new hardware, and today we are giving you the full reveal.
Yes, this is the ROG Ally X. It's the ROG Ally, but it's been enhanced for the power users. It comes in an all-new black colorway, and it takes everything that made the original Ally so great, but expands upon it, adding, a little bit of extra here, there, and, well, everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. We saw you, we heard you, and we know some of the most intrepid modders out there have already taken these things into their own hands. Shout out to the Danger Zone folks. It has been impressive, to say the least, watching you guys go to work on the Ally.
Yeah, we've seen crazy mods been done to the OG Ally, but now you don't have to work so hard to make the Ally into the device of your dreams, as the Ally X comes with an 80 watt-hour battery. That is double the size of the original model, which means way more gameplay while unplugged. And, this was by far the biggest request we got from the community, so we made it our top priority.
Yeah, and it was pretty interesting for the engineers to kind of fight that battle, right? Because it's not just as simple as like, just put a bigger battery in.
Right.
If you guys remember when we launched the original Ally, one of our biggest concerns was the weight of the device. It's not just a portable device, right? It's a handheld portable device. So keeping it lightweight is very, very important. So we did everything in our power with that original Ally to try and hit like 600 grams. That was our goal. We tried so hard to hit 600 grams. We hit 608. We didn't quite make it to that 600 grams that we were really, really aiming for, but we were really proud that we hit 608 grams. Yeah. But the feedback we saw was that while people liked how lightweight it was, they overwhelmingly wanted more battery life, and they were willing to give up some of that lightness for more playtime. So when we went, to the drawing board for the Ally X, we had to reassess that balance. Here's what's crazy. We doubled the size of the battery, but we were still able to keep the weight down. It's only gone up by 70 grams compared to the original Ally, which is about an 11.5% increase in total weight. And we did it in a way that keeps the weight distribution of the device as a whole kind of centered, not just between the left and the right, but the battery's weight is centered in the spots where you're holding it in your hands, kind of here, right? So it contributes to this feeling of balanced, light weightedness. It doesn't actually feel that much heavier when you're holding both of them side by side, which is kind of crazy. So in the end, our team was really happy that they were able to hit that sweet spot and get you guys the battery that you wanted while still keeping the device lighter than, honestly, a lot of its competitors, and keeping it just feeling really nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I'm really stoked for. Double the battery is going to be huge, but it's not the only thing that we have doubled. The Ally X now comes with a full 1 terabyte of storage, as we once again saw a lot of people modding Allies to fit 2280 SSDs, and well, clearly that's what you guys want. So we did it stock.
Yeah, and there's two things there, right? There's the 2280 SSD, and then there's the 1 terabyte. And so again, we have some balancing acts to kind of figure out as we're deciding what goes into this device. And this time it was balancing what we saw most users asking for with the price point that we wanted to hit. Right? Because price is important too. Obviously, the more storage we put in the Ally, the more expensive the final product. And the more expensive the final product, the fewer people will buy it because it inches out of more and more people's budget range.
Yep.
So when we looked at the original Ally and we looked at the community, most of the people we saw that were upgrading, the storage were upgrading to 1 terabyte. That seemed to be the most wanted level of storage. And I can speak to that. I upgraded to 1 terabyte on mine. 512 was like not quite enough for me, and 1 terabyte is plenty. I can't even fill out that space with enough games that I'm actually gonna play in handheld mode, right? Like when I'm done with a game, I'll uninstall it and install another one.
Right.
So we did see people upgrading to 2 terabytes and larger because some of you guys just want that huge library on the device, and we totally get that. But it was a much smaller number of people upgrading to 2 terabyte and larger. So we didn't want to increase the cost of the device and lock out a huge number of people just to serve the smaller subset of users, especially when the storage is user upgradable, right? Those people can still upgrade the storage if they want. Now, I know that some people also are wondering the opposite, right? Why not just stick with 512 gigabytes, let the device be cheaper, and let people choose whether they want to upgrade to 1 terabyte themselves. And part of that is because we saw that a lot of people were still a little hesitant to go through that process, right? Not everyone has opened up a device and upgraded the storage before. And while it is really easy, and I'm going to show you how easy in a bit, and we think that anyone is capable of doing that, we also didn't want to make those people feel like they had to do that to get to what they considered like their baseline level of storage. Especially because then you also have this extra 512 drive sitting around that you like paid for and aren't using. So, there's a lot of push and pull here between not just cost and the feedback, but between different people's feedback, which are sometimes conflicting. The bottom line was we wanted to make the Ally X storage easier to upgrade, but we also wanted to reduce the number of users that felt they needed to upgrade, while also balancing price, doing both of those things, right? So at the end of the day, 1 terabyte did the best job of balancing all of these goals and kind of hitting that sweet spot. But again, it's very easily upgradable. So if you want to put 2 terabytes, 4 terabytes of storage in there and just load up on games, you can do that easier than ever.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. But, there's more, as always, because we also added extra memory. As the OG Ally had 16 gigabytes of memory, the Ally X now will have 24 gigabytes of memory. Because, yeah, we do have newer games requiring more system RAM and VRAM, and you guys made it loud and clear that you wanted more. So this will allow you to allocate more VRAM with much more flexibility and freedom based on whatever your gaming needs might be. But we didn't just add more memory, we actually used a faster memory. So we are using LPDDR5X 7500 chips in the Ally X, and this will help reduce any other potential bottlenecks.
Yeah, and so again, very similar considerations here, except without that upgradability aspect. So a little bit more challenging. Now, while the Ally the Ally is a 1080p device, right? So it doesn't need as much VRAM as like a 4K gaming PC or even a 1440p gaming PC.
Naturally.
But it was still clear from your feedback that you wanted more overall RAM to kind of allocate, as you saw fit for different games. 24 gigs allows for a nice kind of clean split, right? 16 gigabytes for the system, 8 gigabytes for the GPU. And actually, that is the most common configuration we see in the PC gaming community is 16.8. And so we thought that that was like a good balance, and it should be enough for the vast majority of games on the Ally as well.
Yeah.
Putting in more than 24 gig would have, once again, raised the price significantly, and we didn't want to put the Ally X out of reach of too many people. And when I look at the feedback, so we teased the Ally X a few weeks ago, right? We teased that we were adding more RAM, and we had a lot of people kind of speculating and discussing how much RAM they'd like to see. And we did see a lot of people hoping for 32 gigs, but we also saw a similar number of people saying that if the price was over a certain amount, they would say, if it's over X dollars, I'm not interested, right? And so
makes sense.
I think 24 gigs was the correct choice here, because if we had gone to 32, it would have put the Ally, those people wouldn't have bought it. And you have to consider too that a lot of people some people are only really gunning for one of these upgrades, right? Some people don't really care about having more RAM or storage, but they really want that battery, right?
Yep.
Or some people don't really care about the battery because they play plugged in, but they want more RAM. And those people aren't necessarily going to upgrade if the device is too expensive because we've maxed out all of those things, right? We want the price to be at a point where people who only want one of these upgrades and want them badly enough still might think that it's worth it. But if we redline all of the specs to the max, then the device becomes too expensive for a lot of those people who are really only gunning for one thing. Like, does that make sense? So we think that 24 gigs is going to be a really good sweet spot for the majority of users while keeping the price low enough to be worth the upgrade or worth it for first-time buyers who are just now getting into the Ally X space. This isn't just for existing Ally users. There are still people out there who have been kind of waiting, right, for the next revision to come out to jump in the pool, and now's the time. And again, we didn't just increase the capacity either. Like, right, we wanted to spend some of that budget on faster RAM chips, like you mentioned, because we know that was something that you guys were asking for too. So that was how we tried to kind of allocate that budget in that way.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I'm kind of the user that rarely buys first generation devices. So I think there probably are a fair number of users that have been watching and waiting to see what kind of changes would be made. But, these three changes we just talked about, more battery, more storage, more RAM, they were by far the most requested changes that we had from you guys, the community. So we worked our butts off to make it happen. In fact, I think our engineers worked a little bit harder than they originally thought they were going to, as they ended up redesigning the entire motherboard layout to make all of this fit within the Ally or the Ally X. And while the Ally X is not the Ally 2, it is much more than just a simple refresh. We did put a lot of work into redesigning this for all the things that you guys wanted to see.
Yes, and like you said, originally we went a little farther than we originally intended. And once you start redesigning the entire motherboard and the internal chassis space, you're like, okay, well, now we have to redesign the chassis too. So why stop at the internals? Let's just overhaul everything. So you guys also had some feedback on the controls and the chassis, and we couldn't help ourselves. So we upgraded a bunch of aspects of the physical design as well. Should we take a look?
Oh, yes. Yes, we should.
All right. So you'll notice here, this is not the Ally X. This is a hard case. You guys have been asking for this for a while. This is going to be available for the Ally X as well. I'm really excited about this. This is a hard case that will fit not just your Ally X, but it will fit your charger as well as some cards and things like that. But yes, here is the device. I am very, very excited about this thing. I've been kind of playing with it a little bit the past few days, and
so jealous.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so let me first put this alongside the original Ally, right? Because you'll notice right away when you put these side by side, or top and bottom like we have them here, there is a little bit of a different shape. Right away noticeable in these corners, right? The Ally X had these kind of angled edges to kind of sit in the palms of your hands. We made them a little bit rounder so that it contours even more to your hands when you're holding it. Similarly, the handles on the Ally X are a little bit thicker and a little bit rounder. And so it's just a bit deeper, not enough to make the device a whole lot thicker. Again, like, look at this. It's not actually that much thicker when you look at it.
Yeah, very minimal.
But it's enough that the device just kind of melts into your hands when you're holding it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and make sure we've got a kind of a clear view. When you hold this thing, it just feels right, Part of that is the deeper curves here, but part of it is also what we've done to the triggers. The triggers have kind of a more of a slant to them, and up here there's a slant as well. So when you put your fingers here, it just slides right into place, it gives you a wider base for your finger to kind of press down as well. And all of these things just add up to a device that feels so much better. And honestly, talking about the people who are upgrading for like the one thing that they really want, all of those internal upgrades I'm really excited about. This is probably my number one, the feature that gets me the most excited. As soon as I held this in my hands, I was like, I would buy one of these on day one.
Yeah.
Just for and I didn't even have a problem with the original. I liked the original Ally's ergonomics. That's just how much of an upgrade this is. It feels so much better.
When I first held the mold, months ago, it was just immediate apparent to me that just this is better in every way, much more comfortable. And yes, more battery is going to be nice, but yeah,
for sure.
I definitely am someone that does fairly long gaming sessions with my Ally, whether it be just on stream. We do gaming streams with the Ally all the time, or flights to Asia, which are quite long. I end up playing 5-6 hours at a clip. I've definitely had, the corners digging into my hand, and that gets a little uncomfortable after longer sessions. So this is really going to remedy that, and I cannot wait to have it in my life.
You've got the longer battery, which gives you longer gaming sessions, and you've got the better ergonomics, which allow for longer gaming sessions. It all goes together perfectly. It does. Now, all that said, we also had a lot of feedback on the controls themselves, which is understandable since controls are one of the most important parts of the gaming experience. Mm-hmm. So we equipped the Ally X with a new joystick module. These sticks are more durable. They're capable of 5 million cycles, but it's not just durability. These springs are also stiffer on these, giving you a bit more resistance as you move the stick around for more precise aim, right? It just doesn't feel, feels a little bit tighter than the original Ally.
Yeah, this is huge. When I first held the original Ally, that was an immediate apparent thing to me. I thought it felt a little bit wobblier than I wanted to, and I gave that feedback then and there. A lot of people had the same feedback, right? I remember the early reviews. Other people echoed that, and we heard you guys in the community saying that as well. So, of course, we've got some new sticks. It's great.
Yeah, and they should be, the feel of them should be a bit more familiar if you're kind of a long-time controller gamer.
I'm so excited to try them.
Right?
But yeah, that's great to hear that you're confirming that.
Yeah, and the sticks are easily replaceable too, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Nice.
So sticks, obviously great, but one of my pieces of feedback for the team was, hey, I think we can make some improvements to the D-pad. So you can see right away that it's got, it's a totally different mold, right? So it has a much more distinct cross, and it's a bit like deeper into the disc. So when you're playing, and you're just playing by feel, right? You can feel much more clearly which direction you're about to press. And yeah, it's really nice. And then you've got these little notches in the diagonals to give you that as well. It's also got a matte finish for the cross, which I think looks and feels like a noticeable improvement over the previous model. It's a little bit more premium looking.
Yeah, that's going to be really good for all the indie gamers, people that use the D-pad more for variety of games. But I think of indie and fighting games as the primary users that are going to...
Retro gamers. I know that's a big part of the Ally community. I play retro games on it too. So yeah, that's going to be nice. Now, what you may not notice as I'm showing this to you, or maybe the really eagle-eyed among you have noticed, is that we've slightly adjusted the layout of the sticks and buttons as well. It's still this asymmetrical layout, right? But the angle of this upper row to the sticks has been adjusted slightly. The idea, right, was to more accurately reflect when you're holding it, where your thumb naturally hits as you rotate it up and down. So, it's, again, you don't notice it necessarily by looking at it, but it's a subtle upgrade that you should end up noticing when you hold it as just, this feels better. Like, this feels more natural. And even if you can't quite put your finger on why, like, that was our goal. We just wanted it to feel better and more natural overall. Now, if you turn the device around, phew, I don't know why I did that sound effect. You'll also notice that the macro keys are a little bit more compact on the Ally X.
Awesome. Yeah. I mentioned earlier that I have kind of larger hands, and this is another thing that I didn't necessarily provide feedback on personally, to be honest, just because I was like, oh, this is just a me problem because I don't like macro keys. I don't use them on controllers generally. But apparently enough people did feel that they were accidentally pressing them. Yeah, a lot of people love macro keys, so we don't want to remove them. But enough people like me don't necessarily use them actively or even want to use them because it's something that we didn't always have necessarily. So I'm kind of stubborn and I just didn't want to adapt to using it. I am primarily a PC gamer anyways, but I found myself accidentally pressing them. So of course I would always just go into Armor Crate and disable them. But enough people kind of felt like, we got that feedback and people were saying that they were accidentally pressing them. So they're slightly smaller now, which is, it's a nice change.
Yeah, I didn't really have a problem accidentally pressing them, but I disable them for some games, and in other games I'll map them to like the shoulder buttons or something just because they're so easy to press. I do think that this is an improvement. I'm excited to see this, and I know a lot of people were modding the back buttons as well to kind of fit their own preferences. So hopefully this will appeal to more people. I think it's a nice change. Now, I also wanted to point out some of the changes we made along the top. Some of you may have seen this as I was kind of moving the device around earlier. Port selection was another one of those huge pieces of feedback that we heard. You guys overwhelmingly asked for more ports with wider compatibility and more open standards. So we've replaced the XG Mobile port with 2 Type-C ports, 2 USB Type-C, one of which is USB 4, and it's compatible with Thunderbolt 4 devices. So you can literally plug in anything you want into this. This was another one of those areas where we had to kind of deal with competing feedback from the community, right? Some people wanted one thing, some people wanted another. A lot of people really like the XG Mobile. The XG Mobile is a great interface. We built the XG Mobile interface because it was faster than what was available at the time through more universal standards. Other people said that they would like to see OcuLink on the Ally, while others just wanted more USB, right? So we had a hard decision to make. And sometimes when you have feedback like that, you have to look kind of past the actual feedback and think like, what's the overall theme here? What is it that people really want? And what's the best way to implement that? And to us, the feedback was, we want more ports and we want more open, widely adopted standards, right? So at the end of the day, to us, that meant USB. The Ally is an awesome device to use with an external GPU, and we want to keep that option available to you. But when we look at the community and what most people are doing, most people are not using an external GPU with this. So as we're trying to balance cost with space on the chassis and on the motherboard, like taking that up for a big port that isn't going to get used by most people doesn't make as much sense when we could go with something that is more universal and widely adopted, right? Like the U in USB stands for universal.
Yes, it does.
So that kind of double USB was the clear choice for us here. It benefits the most users with the most widely adopted standards and provides the most flexibility in how you use your Ally X. External GPU is still an option here, but those that aren't using it have an extra port to kind of use however they see fit.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen so many people that just use USB-C hubs or, docks just to gain more USB ports. So now there's more situations where you don't have to do that. Obviously, you still have those options to do those kind of things. But yeah, the double USB port is something that I dearly wanted and I'm happy to see.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Now, the last thing on the top you might notice here is this vent. Since we were redesigning the chassis anyway and redesigning the motherboard and the internals, we also took a look at the cooling, and we're actually going to take a literal look at it right now. I'm gonna open this bad boy up, you guys. One thing that I thought was so cool about the original Ally was that, if you guys remember, we introduced kind of its what we call zero gravity cooling system, right? It used kind of these special heat pipes that could be used in any orientation, not just like a laptop where it's sitting straight on a desk, but also, if you're using it sideways, or if you're hanging down upside down from a tree and playing the Ally. I don't know if anyone's doing that, but somewhere out there.
Maybe.
Next year's Where Is My Ally campaign, we'll see someone doing that, I'm sure, right? We wanted it to be able to use in any configuration. So that was pretty cool, but we wanted to make the cooling system even better. I got to get this last clip here. Here we go.
Yeah, you did it.
So I know I did it. So we completely redesigned the internals to fit that new battery, right? And in doing so, we actually had to make the fans a little bit smaller. But you know, we didn't want to sacrifice cooling for that. So what we did is we made the blades thinner, which actually allows them to produce more airflow than the previous Ally fans, not less.
Wizardry.
So the cooling on this should actually be better than the previous Ally. In addition, inside this fan housing here, we added 2 small tunnels that direct air kind of up and out toward that third vent along the top. So all of this means that the new cooling system can push 24% more air volume through the device. That not only cools all of these internal components better, but it actually keeps the panel up to 6 degrees Celsius cooler.
Nice.
So you can actually use the touchscreen more comfortably as well. Again, this was some feedback we saw about the touchscreen, and so we were able to address that during this internal redesign as well. While we have this open, you can also see, here's your SSD right here. Very easy to replace that, and it's 2280, so you can add tons more storage if that's what you want to do. Also, the joysticks are more easily accessible. This is a daughter board that the joysticks live on. Here's the other one over here. So if a third party decided to sell their own Ally X compatible sticks with different shapes or materials or something, and you wanted to swap those in yourself, you can do that easier than before. You don't have to take the whole Ally apart anymore. Repairability and upgradability was a big focus for us on the first Ally for sure, but we went even harder with the Ally X because we saw how many people were modding this device. We wanted to give you guys more options in making this device truly yours and making it easier to do so.
Love to see it. Love to see it. But along with the Ally X, we are launching a few accessories to go with it. We have a new charger that is sold separately that has 4 ports, has 3 Type-C and 1 Type-A port, with 140 watts of combined power across all of the ports. This is just so that if you're traveling with, say, your phone or your Ally and your laptop, you could actually charge all of those devices while only using 1 brick. I mean, I'm someone that's always has a ton of cables in my bags, and 1 less power brick is only going to make me a happier person.
Yeah,
and we also have
incredible.
that new hard case that you showed off a little bit earlier.
Yeah, this is the hard case. So it's a little bit thicker than the previous soft case because it's designed to hold that charger in it as well. It also has these flaps. So this flap kind of allows you to use it as a stand for your Ally. And you've got this which can hold like, you know, cards or your earbuds or things like that as well.
Good to confirm. And we are just so excited to finally show this off. It comes packed with the same Ryzen Xeon Extreme APU that performs so great on the original Ally, has the same 120 Hz VRR display. It's designed with the existing community in mind, with double the battery capacity, double the storage, more RAM at faster speeds, and better ergonomics and thermals.
Yep. So, yeah, that's it. That's the Ally X, guys.
Yeah, and you know, that doesn't mean that the original Ally isn't worth your time. It's still a very capable device, and it's still available to buy today. So if you don't need the extra battery or RAM, or you want to use the XG Mobile, the Ally is still a killer device. But for the power users who do want the absolute most, especially when we're looking at using it in handheld mode, the Ally X was built for you. It is available to pre-order today for $799 US. Devices will start shipping out on July 22nd. So go snag your pre-order while you can.
And it comes with that 3 months of Game Pass as well. So keep that in mind as you can add that onto your existing account. Totally awesome. So thank you for joining us today, guys. We still have more Computex coverage coming tomorrow. We have some other exciting announcements about other products. But I'm sure that you guys still have some questions about the Ally X. So join our Discord, the official Republic of Gamers Discord server, and in there you'll see a thread for our ROG Ally X Q&A stream. You can drop any questions you have about the Ally X there, and then next Thursday, June 13th, we'll be streaming again on this channel and answering as much of those questions as we can, including, I imagine, things like, why we stuck with our current display, why we stuck with the Z1 Extreme chip. I've already seen a lot of questions about that. It's kind of its own big discussion, and I wanted to leave it. I wanted to keep today about the upgrades, but we will talk about that next week. We've got a lot of other stuff we want to cover for you guys. So go drop those questions into our Discord. You can drop your questions live during the stream, but if you ask them in advance on the Discord, we have a better chance of getting more detailed answers for you, so that when you tune in on Thursday, we can actually answer it, right? Because we have to go find the people in charge of those things sometimes and ask them. So yeah, so subscribe to us here on YouTube and on Twitch. We've got a whole lot more planned in the coming weeks and months, including a walkthrough of the new Armory crate, lots of gameplay on the new Ally X that Jake will be doing here. So definitely give us a follow and a subscribe. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. We will see you next time.